Welcome, welcome, welcome to Leadershipisation, all things leadership. Hey, I wonder if you've ever thought or noticed about other people or thought about yourself, I'm really good at this job, or that person is really good at that job, but they don't seem to be getting anywhere. They don't seem to be getting promoted. They don't seem to be getting noticed. It's an interesting way to look at things. But what's really interesting is that it's easy to get stuck in that space where you think, oh, I'm really good at my job, so someone's bound to come along and promote me. It's easy to get stuck in that kind of space, especially if you view yourself as being capable, if you have this identity of being, I'm someone people can rely on because I'm always going to deliver, or I'm someone people can rely on because I'm awesome at solving problems, I'm awesome at getting results. Now, for a long time, that's been exactly what works, but it doesn't. It doesn't always work into the future. Maybe you're still performing, but you're not progressing. Maybe what's happening is that when you look around, others are moving ahead, but you're not. And maybe what's happening is that others are getting those opportunities, and you're thinking to yourself, this doesn't make sense. Because at higher levels, when it comes down to thinking about being promoted, it's no longer based on what you do, on your execution, on the outcomes. It's actually based on how you show up as a leader, how you show up in your influence, what kind of standards you hold, how you create accountability, and importantly, how you as an individual are experienced by others. And if those things aren't visible, then it's likely that there's not going to be a promotion and you'll end up staying where you are, because our execution, our ability to do things proves our capability, but our leadership behaviours actually signal our readiness to step up and be a leader. I'm Beth Berghan. I'm a global leadership and communication coach. Join me now for the next 20 odd minutes as I discuss this point. Like, if you're doing the job well, that's not enough anymore. Just doing the job well isn't enough. So let's explore what it is that decision makers are actually looking for when they decide who moves up in their organization. The first point I want to talk to is this one. Your execution, or the way that you're doing things, is what builds trust. However, leadership actually builds progression. Our performance, the way that we do things, the way that we go about doing things is what earns us credibility. And, you know, people look at that and they don't always see the other possibilities because you're not demonstrating. When people look at you and they see, oh, they're performing all the time, they're not necessarily seeing your leadership capacity because you're not showing it to them. So the question for you to ask yourself here is, how are you operating beyond your role? If what you're doing is limiting yourself by focusing only on the deliverables that are attached to your role, you're not necessarily demonstrating your leadership. Leadership around the people that you have around you, 360, not just your team. Leadership around the organization, your desire, your self-awareness and your desire to grow, your influence, your opinions, and your ideas are these things that others in your organization, those people who are likely to be making the decisions for promotion, are they actually seeing those things? Because if all you show is your ability to get stuff done, to keep on doing it, to keep delivering, then there's a danger that you're actually boxing yourself in. And if you're boxing yourself in, that's all that people are going to trust you with. Yeah? You're limiting yourself. You're building trust. You're not demonstrating the kind of leadership that actually builds you towards promotion, opportunities, progression in the organization. The second point I want to talk to is this. This is always a difficult one to kind of talk to because influence actually makes you visible. Now, we've done a lot of stuff over the last couple of weeks about influence. And so, it would be worth your while to go back and have a listen or a look at those. But, as a leader, we want you to be someone who's shaping thinking. Now, sometimes you're going to get it right. Sometimes you're going to get it wrong. However, if you don't contribute, then you're not influencing or shaping anything. We want you to be able to demonstrate your influence through your confidence, through your clarity, and through your presence as a leader. Waiting to be asked to share your ideas, to share your opinions, waiting to be asked to step in and tell us what you think, that delays the recognition. So it's really about you being prepared to step forward. So, think about it this way. If you are not influencing in that senior executive team, in the higher up um, tables or boardrooms or desks or whatever in your organization, if you're not influencing, you're not being seen, and really importantly, you're not being seen as ready for new roles. We've had those previous influence conversations, and I've told you before, but something to reiterate, it's really important to build that power base. I do a lot of work with my individual clients around building that power base that is going to help to move you towards where you want to be. The third point is this. Avoiding those accountability conversations really weakens your leadership perception. So others are watching you and they notice that you're avoiding those conversations. Some of us are really capable as leaders, but we step away if things get a little bit uncomfortable. We work really hard to avoid tension. And what happens, or the perception that others get of that, is that you are prioritizing relationships over standards. And the signal that they give anyone who is in a position to influence whether you get a promotion or not, what that signals is discomfort. Oh, hey, I'm not very comfortable with this. And those kind of difficult conversations, those kind of accountability conversations, any tension, as a leader, it's your responsibility to actually deal with that, because strong leaders are the kind of people who are going to set expectations. They're then going to maintain standards from those expectations, and they're going to notice and address any issues that they have really early. So, the thing for you to recall here, or to remember here rather, is that if you don't hold standards, then higher up people are potentially not going to trust you with those standards, because what they're noticing is that any of this tension, any of these accountability conversations just aren't being held. The fourth point I want to talk to is this. Authority, it's a weird thing, authority, but it's something that it is experienced through your behavior and not through a title. Now, that's kind of a little bit related to, leadership. You can lead from any chair in the organization. But what's important to understand is that authority isn't granted. It's not, oh, here you are, you've got this title, we're going to give you authority. Authority is something that people feel. And the things that you can do to help your colleagues, wherever they sit in your organization, to help your colleagues feel that authority is that you can communicate with clarity. You can make decisions promptly. So you bring that decisiveness with you. You behave consistently. So we've talked a lot about how your team take their cue emotionally from you. So if you show up, things aren't good, your emotions are all over the place, you can't regulate them, then your team's going to take that from you. So what's important is that you demonstrate that consistency. That's where the authority comes from. If what you're doing is over-explaining, if you're hesitating, if you're softening your decisions all the time, then others perceive your authority as going down. Now, what's important here is that if people don't feel that authority, they're less likely to follow your lead. Yes, I know there will always be people who will follow your lead because you pushed them into it or guilted them into it. But long term with the team, what we already know is that that doesn't work well. Yeah. Point 5, staying as a doer or staying as a doer or in that doer mode really limits your leadership visibility. There you are. You're trapped in that identity. I add value by doing stuff. I'm the person. Yell out. You can come to me and I will do stuff. And these, the important thing to understand is that leaders, real leaders, and this is where I want you to move to, leaders add value by thinking and sharing that thinking, by guiding their team, their peers, their seniors, by providing information, by providing feedback, by sharing their thoughts and their ideas. Leaders add value by enabling other people, like not jumping in too early and taking over the task, not keeping your team playing small, but encouraging them to take risks, to do things differently. Leaders really add value by influencing, getting out there, talking to people, thinking thinking about how can I influence, how can I shape the thinking in this team, in this organization. And if what you do is allow yourself to get stuck in that space of always doing, then what you're doing is actually positioning yourself as a contributor. I'll get stuff done for you. Just ask me. Yes, you're demonstrating, you're performing. All of you will know someone, either in your own organization or in your life somewhere, who is that problem solver. They're the go-to person. We get them to do it. They come in, they sort it out. Yeah, they're the doer. They'll come in and they'll fix it. Those people often are shifted around to lots of different roles and don't necessarily progress. Now, for some people, they want to be stuck there. They think that's awesome. But if lots of the people who are going to make a decision about your career see you there, they'll keep you there. And so this is what you've got to be aware of when it comes to actually thinking, how do I get to be more visible here? How do I get to be on their radar when my performance obviously hasn't been enough? Okay, let's look at a really great leadership intelligence tool that you can use. I call this one the leadership signal check. And this week, you can do this on a daily basis this week, or perhaps what you'd like to do is to kind of do it at the end of the week as a summary, is to ask yourself this: where did I influence a decision? Where did I hold a standard? Where did I create accountability? And finally, where did I shape thinking beyond my role? So what I mean by that is, where did you contribute to another area of the organization? Because, people often say, well, I'm sitting at the meeting, but, my role is I'm over here in construction and they're having a meeting about the organization as a whole. Yeah, but you're on the exec team, so make a contribution. Yeah, shape that thinking beyond just construction. So when you think about those 4 where did I questions, if your answers are mostly about, oh, I delivered this work, as opposed to you being able to go, yeah, I did influence that wee decision over there. Yeah, I did hold that standard, and I held these standards here, here, and here. If your answer mostly points to, I delivered this work, and what's happening is that you are reinforcing the doing or the execution identity rather than a leadership role. And that's exactly what you need to shift in order to shift people's perspective of you. So, the deep reflection question is this one: where am I relying on being capable, on being the doer, instead of demonstrating that I am ready to lead? Now, I know doing the doing, being seen as being capable, makes you feel good. If you're looking for promotion, then it's about changing those behaviours. Often say what got you to here won't get you to there. So you're going to have to change the behavior to close that gap a bit. Where am I relying on being capable instead of demonstrating that I'm ready to lead? Where am I doing that with my team? Where am I doing that with seniors? Where am I doing that? And where do I need to change that up a bit so that I'm actually demonstrating my leadership? I love that. It's a great question. And as I say to you, think of it, write some thoughts down, and then go away, come back to it. And what else? And what else? So, key takeaways for today: talent gets results. Yeah, it does. However, leadership behaviors need to be demonstrated in order for you to be really seriously considered for promotion. We can demonstrate these leadership behaviors through influence, through authority, through accountability. And what they will do is demonstrate our readiness to take on a higher level job. And finally, if you stay a doer, if you stay an executor, you're going to be stuck there. What's really interesting about this whole thing is that if you're relying on skills and capability to get you promoted, you may actually be holding yourself back without even realizing it. You're just kind of thinking, I do such a good job, they'll see that and they'll promote me. And the interesting thing is that the people who are likely to be promoting you, they're not asking, can they do the job? They're actually asking, can they lead at the next level? Now, that's quite a different question. So, the answer isn't in your output, in the things that you're doing and that you're achieving. It's in your influence, it's in how you show up, and it's in how you lead others. So, if you're ready to make a shift to be seen as not just capable, but actually ready to lead, use the QR code or the link that we'll put in the platform that you're watching this on and book a call with me. It would be my pleasure to have a conversation with you about how we could do that. Like, as I said, if you're only proving you can do the job, that's all you're doing. No one will believe that you can actually lead it. So, thank you so much for spending time with me today. I've had some great podcast about the feedback. I've had some great feedback about the podcast, which is really wonderful. Thank you. If you've got questions or comments, pop them on the platform that you're watching this on. And if you've watched a replay, hashtag replay, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. See you next week. Bye now.